Alright guys, what is up? It is finally Friday night. I just wanted to record before we come into the month of June. We've got one more day. Right now it's Friday, May 30th of 2025. Depending where people are listening to this, I may or may not have been recording different short series about different topics, but um, this one I think is gonna be uh, pretty. I don't know. It's pretty basic, but important. You know, like I've had to realize lately that more and more it's becoming obvious that not everybody is a loving person. Um, and it doesn't really matter if it's relatives, coworkers, whoever it may be. Um, I guess it's almost like it's almost equivalent to like if you're a certain like ethnicity or something where people don't know, and then like maybe it's not so obvious, and then people maybe say something around you. Like I'll give you like an example. Um, this happened a long time ago, and I'm not like uh, I have no beef with this specific person. I don't think, at least not personally between me and them. But there was somebody that I knew kind of slightly through like social circles, who we crossed paths often. Um, we didn't hang out like in close knit groups often, but we hung out. Like I didn't like call them up to hang out. They didn't call me up to hang out, but we had other friends that one of us might get invited by either by one of our parties of friends, and we might end up in the same place, um, or there were community events that we were part of that we would just see each other all the time. Um, but I don't think there's any. I don't really know this person's character, so I'm just telling a story, basically, and it's not like a deep, heavy story, but it's kind of the best example that comes to my mind. I was with this person and a group of people, standing around talking. This is like the good old days before everybody was on their phones. So we're standing outside of a building after some event had ended and most people had left, but we're still chatting, and it's like we're in no rush. So the ones who were just chatting and enjoying talking, it's afternoon and we're on a weekend and we're just hanging out talking. And this person says something, you know, this person's like a jokester. They're kind of always making groups of people laugh or whatever. And this person starts telling jokes. And I think most of us that were standing in the circle were black, if not like some kind of Pacific Islander. Um, and let's say there were like 7, 8 people. And so we're a group of minorities, and this person is a minority who's talking. He's black. Most of the people I'm pretty sure were black in that group. Um, and then he starts talking, and he's like gonna tell like some kind of a joke, because people were kind of telling jokes. I can't remember if we were like just if it was as a group telling jokes about black people. I really can't remember. It was a kind of we were kind of having like a joking conversation, but it wasn't anything that anybody in that group would have been like offended about. But it was probably like, okay, if there were different people in the group, like white or Asian, other types of Asians, you know, we would have maybe been like, maybe like not these jokes at this time, you know. But the people who were there, nobody assumed anyone was gonna get offended. But this guy, he's an African American guy, and he starts telling a joke, and he's saying something along the line. He's like, "Oh yeah, I have this story." Like, and then he's like, "Wait, is anybody here? Is anybody here African?" And then I was like, "Well, yeah, like I have African heritage." And he was like, oh, "Okay, like never mind. I won't tell the joke." And so like it was clearly gonna be like an offensive joke about African people. But I use that as an example to show, like, what if he would have assumed that nobody in that group was African, and he would have gone along, and told the joke, you know, um, and some people in that group might have been hurt by it or been annoyed by it. I probably might have. I never heard the joke, so I don't even know what the joke was. It might have actually been funny and not offensive at all. I don't really know. But imagine if the story had gone a different way and the guy had actually told the joke, assuming that other people in the group weren't, like, this joke wasn't going to apply to anybody, but then it ends up applying to like one or two of us in the group, right? And that kind of stuff happens all the time. That's why I'm using that as an example. Because even if you're in a group of black people, not everyone's going to assume you have African heritage, especially if it's not obvious, or they don't know my last name, or they've never met any of my family members. It's not going to be like obvious to them. And so sometimes when you are part of a certain group, you definitely overhear people saying things, or witness or encounter, or even secondhand hear people saying things to where you're like, oh, this person actually is hateful towards that group of people. Now, it's different if it's like people just trying to get laughs, people telling off-color jokes, people telling sexist or racist jokes. Like, that kind of thing happens. It's not maybe like polite, or like, you kind of gotta pick and choose. But I listen to a lot of comedy, a lot of stand-up, and it's like I can appreciate good timing, or when we're all there and bouncing jokes off of each other, and it's a fun time, and we're all having fun, and the whole purpose is just having fun, and people are just kind of like poking at each other, poking fun, like a little bit of roasting and stuff, but it's not like heavy. Like, I'm not really into that necessarily, but I can understand it, because sometimes when you're kind of hanging out, especially with certain people, that might just be the vibe some of the time. And that is like, I feel like as long as people know their limits, it helps. Maybe if they're not like overly drunk trying to do this, if they can kind of read the room, or if they like know people well enough that they can be like maybe like a couple jabs that gets everybody be like, oh, like that was like pretty clever, but not really like something that, like, I don't know, it's tricky, it's complex. Like, comedy is a complex art form for sure. But I do appreciate when people like the art form of it, and when people like play with words, or like concepts that are like taboo and interesting, but like there's no way to really bring it up in a group of people in a way that's not going to be offensive. Comedy, in a way, can kind of break those barriers, kind of like how other art forms, like a painting or music, lyrics, poetry, whatever, like you can read it or consume it in a way that's, maybe you're like, okay, the artist's intent, or like, it gets to you a different way, where you're like, okay, there's an art form here, or like there's something to it that like the artist is trying to convey, but it doesn't really sum up all of their like belief systems. Like, it might not even be anything that they believe. It might just be a persona that they portray. It might just be just kind of like their artistic style is to like piss people off or something, even if it goes to that extreme, just to rattle some feathers. So yeah, that's something that I've that um, I've noticed, like not really the comedy joking side. I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking more about like mixed groups of people, not necessarily ethnicities. But say for example, if I were to go down to San Diego and hang out with a handful of friends, it's about to be summer. So say I was about to go down to San Diego, hang out with, say 4th of July. I don't really have plans on the 4th of July, but yet. So let's say that it's the 4th of July and I'm going down to San Diego to hang out with, maybe there's some friends that I'm pretty familiar with hanging out with, but we haven't hung out lately, and maybe I invite one or two other people who don't even know each other, but they both know me. I invite one or two other individual people to hang out with me in this group of like 4 or 5 people. Let's just say that's the scenario. In the olden days, I'll call it anytime before 2019 maybe. In the olden days, pre-pandemic, we probably would have known nothing about each other's healthcare preferences, beliefs about vaccinations, beliefs about, you know, police brutality, beliefs about white supremacy. We probably might know each other's political affiliations, but probably maybe never spoke about it. Probably never talked about, a lot of human rights issues or AI or really any of that kind of stuff. But I guess what I would want to say really is keep your eyes open, be careful, don't become a hateful person if you can help it. Recognize when you're being hateful. And I'm saying that because I constantly find myself having to lately remove myself from conversations, or just to stop engaging and just turn around, like exit, abort, leave. I keep finding myself needing to avoid bringing up anything. I don't even know how to describe it. I have been, since maybe the end of January, I've definitely been practicing a distancing from a lot of types of content online. And I can't avoid it fully. As much as I'm trying to avoid it, I can't. Anyone who knows me, you know how I feel about different religious cultures, and some of them, of course, I find to be problematic, but there are certain groups that I'm almost always fascinated with, not in a romanticized way, but certain beliefs about media, internet. I've talked a lot about my history with cultures and how they engage with media and internet and things like that. This weekend I'm currently in the process of listening to this really lengthy, 4-something hour long event called the Internet Asifa that was over a decade ago, where all of these ultra-Orthodox Jewish people, um, guys, I think men mostly, I don't know if they were women, I can't really tell by the pictures, but they were all in the stadium, and there was this big, I guess technically like a conference of some kind, like a big speech with multiple speakers, multiple people that are considered in those communities to have a lot of wisdom and a lot of um like high standing in the communities and stuff, and they were known throughout that world. um I don't think that the names for most of us who aren't really a part of that or don't really study any of it would maybe know too much about the specific speakers, but I'll know more about it once I finish watching the whole thing. Um, but I mean, I don't know. I almost feel like like a duty to warn people. Just like the more I step away from stuff, and I'm not saying I'm good or perfect or that I don't like sit and binge watch stuff. Like I probably watched like 3 movies yesterday on Amazon Prime. Like I'm not like avoiding things like to a point where it's like not watching anything. There's just certain content that I'm not engaging with, or actively trying not to engage with. And even as hard as I'm trying, I'm still not able to fully disengage from it because I still see thumbnails, I still see slideshows, I still see, headlines and things, pictures, overhear people talking about stuff. Um, but it's just becoming so sad because it's like all people want to talk about. Like I've never experienced a time in my life where people are so consumed with something other than when the pandemic was roaring. That's the only other time I remember. Well, I don't know, maybe it was the same near 9/11. It may have been, but I don't know. Like I was younger. It was right before I graduated high school. It was like the beginning of my senior year of high school, I think. Um, I wasn't fully like talking about it all the time. Like it was around, like there was a buzz about it for sure, but I wasn't talking about it all the time. Nobody I knew was talking about it all the time. Like there was definitely a lot of cultural shifts being in like a big city and stuff, and knowing a group of diverse friends as much as I knew, and having Muslim friends and things like that. I definitely noticed, and having friends or family that didn't know Muslims or who were like suspicious of Muslims and things like that. I do remember that, but I don't remember it being such, because the people who were like fearful, they lived in another state, so I didn't really interact with them too much. Probably within a year or two's time, but I don't remember interacting with them too much. But I didn't interact too much. But, yeah, yeah, like, I remember, like, bits and pieces of things, but I don't ever remember anything being like how it was with the pandemic or how it's been since. or all of how it is currently, I don't remember things being this way. I mean, it's hard to even know where to start or what to really say about it, but this is probably going to be a big point of focus for myself for a while coming up. It's probably going to be something that I keep talking about because I am trying not to go down the rabbit hole with everybody else. I'm trying to kind of stay doing my own thing. Now, I'm not saying I want to be uninformed, but because, my social life and communities and things like that are so important to me, I definitely notice how that's getting affected. Like, just this year alone, in 2025, I can't recall having so much tension between friends and family ever. Like, all because of the same reasons. Like, I mean, maybe there's like the occasional lingering tension, like somebody said something rude to me like 5 years ago or like a decade ago, like that uncle made that rude comment or whatever. It's like there's gonna be that kind of stuff, but that's like old news. There's the lingering stuff. I'm talking about new stuff. I've never had a year where there's been so much new stuff that comes up. To a point where I've actually decided to actively change my own lifestyle because of what I'm seeing happening with other friends of mine and other family members of mine. I have certain family members that post things online that everybody can see, and people are like, whoa, like, this person has a lot going on, and that does expose them to ridicule or other people who have those kind of comments to make that'll piss them off and kind of fan the flames. I've had youth pastors that I grew up with, as well as I've had youth pastors kind of stirring up tension and hatred. I've had, like, these were people that were past youth pastors that I grew up with. I've had the other end where there were church leaders that were pretty much keeping silent about pretty big issues that, they have a platform to kind of lovingly show support to members of their community, and they avoid doing so at times because they don't want to like polarize. Like, they can't even like stick up for people anymore because they worry that the people who are against those other people, they don't want to like divide people. I can't even count the amount of people I know who don't talk to each other anymore. I've got friends from overseas that are kind of like expressing their anger about, the American country, the US, or other people who are, noticing that there's certain policies against their ethnic groups or other people who are racially sorry, there's always the weird sirens, and let's hope that where they're going, the people get helped. So basically, yeah, there's just a lot of people, a lot of tension going on. A lot of people getting hurt by other people. A lot of people just not practicing loving conversations. Like, they just get so heated and they want to argue and fight with their friends, and they have bad boundaries, and they're not able to talk about anything else. Like, I think I mentioned before, you know, I've gone to some interviews. Um, I mean, I'm probably gonna be going on interviews ongoing because I'm trying to like work my way up a ladder here. So it's kind of gonna take a while, but I've seen people in job interviews. The last ones I did in person, you know, the people were talking politics. You know, somebody commented and asked me, you know, like in the middle of saying what they were saying, like, wait, you didn't, I don't know how you vote, like, you didn't vote for that person, did you? Or like, whatever. Like, they were talking about some kind of policy. I don't even know what the topic was. And then, you know, someone else was just telling me all these horrific news stories that they learned about recently, and I'm just like, I couldn't end that meeting faster. I was just like, this is dark. Like, I don't want to know what happened to those kids or whatever story, you know. It's like, I don't want to know about this. Like, why are you telling me this disgusting stuff? Like, I don't want to hear it, you know. And it's like, this is a job interview. Like, I've never in my life been to a job interview where people are talking politics. Like, just openly ranting about politics. And it's like, we barely met that day. It's like, like, whoa. Like, I've never had that happen in my life. The other day I was at the gym, at the pool, and then, you know, I had my stuff in the gym locker in the bathroom upstairs, because I wasn't sure if the downstairs bathrooms had lockers. And so I had my stuff upstairs, but I had brought like my towel and like all the stuff I need for the shower and the pool, jacuzzi, steam room, sauna, all that. I brought all my change with me. So I have my clothes and all my gear, my goggles, all that kind of stuff for the pool. You know, I get out of the pool when I'm done like swimming around, like doing my little exercise and getting like way too much sauna time. I probably was in there too long, but it was amazing. So I'm out drinking my water for a while. Then I go in the bathroom, and the whole time I'd been in the pool, like, it was probably like 30 minutes total I was in that area. There weren't that many women. I remember there being one woman who left early, but all the rest of the people in there were guys. And so these women, I'm assuming, unless they went into the locker room when I was in the sauna or steam room and didn't really see them, and either way, they would have still been in there a really long time, because I was outside drinking water for like a really long time, and I had like a view of the whole place. I don't remember anyone going into the women's bathrooms, because I was wondering, even like, are they even open, because I hadn't seen anybody go in them or out. And so I get in there, and there's these women that are talking. You know, they've probably been in there for ages at this point, because, you know, I was drinking water for at least 10 to 15 minutes before I went in there. So they were in there for at least 10 to 15 minutes, if not longer. And it took me about 15 to 20 minutes to get all my wet clothes off, jump in the shower, get washed, and then dried off and change. The whole time they're in there having a conversation about some financial thing, some economic thing, and talking about some policies and stuff. And I'm like, again, I was like, I can't get out of here fast enough. It's like, I wished I would have had like waterproof headphones or earbuds or some waterproof Bluetooth earbuds to drown it out, or some earplugs. Like, I was just like, man, this sucks. Like, even everywhere I go, people are talking politics, and for lengthy amounts of time. It's like, I had two whole interviews about politics, basically, and then, while I'm at the gym, after a nice little sauna relaxation session, I get to overhear people venting about financial and economic policies, and, you know, it worries me. It worries me. And there's this echo chamber. Like, there are certain topics. I'm not even gonna really, like, say what they are. But there are certain handful, maybe if you branch out from the handful, there's maybe 5 to 10 topics, we'll put it that way. There's five or so major ones at any time. Then there's like another 5 that are like still pretty major, but they're not like the main points. And it makes me think about in psychology there's this kind of coping tool called the balance wheel. Like I said, I'm not talking like some deep topics here. I'm talking about just the basics. It's called the balance wheel, and on it, it's basically everything that on average somebody's gonna need to balance, right? Your sleep, your diet or appetite, if you need to take medicine or supplements, your finances, your physical health, your emotional health, your social health of your social life, you can break it down into things: family, friends, career balance or work-life balance. I don't know, like, let's throw treatment in there if you get any kind of like treatment that you need of any kind, whether that's, I don't know, group therapy, individual therapy, 12-step meetings, some spiritual type of practices or something like that. That's pretty much the majority of the types of things that would go on a balance wheel. And usually what you would do is, it's kind of, each of those pieces looks like a slice of pie, and you're basically supposed to say, how much right now in this moment do you feel like you are attending to certain needs. So maybe one week you're like, I didn't take any of my medicine this week or supplements. I didn't work out at all, so the physical, those are at 0. I didn't follow my budget at all, that's at 0. But I hung out a lot, so that's at 100%. I went out and I went to a few doctor's appointments. I was able to interact with a lot of family, friends. Work is going great. Most of the categories are going well, maybe, but others are kind of maybe like lacking. And as of today, that's kind of how realistically it looks like you spent maybe the last week. And then you kind of identify for yourself at this moment, how much do you feel you need of these different topics? And even if you socialize all for the whole Memorial weekend, all the way through the whole following week, you might still feel like, okay, I still want to socialize just that much. But then you might realize, I'm going to also need to get my budget back on track. So I need to focus on that more than 0%. And I probably need to focus on some spiritual practice, because maybe I haven't done that at all in the last 7 days. And I need to, you're basically just tallying off like what you have or haven't been doing, and it kind of puts a picture together of the discrepancy between what you feel like is or isn't balanced, and like what you kind of feel like you need more of, that you're not really getting, right? And when I take that kind of balance wheel and I start trying to apply it to, like, I can't really apply it to other people's lives, but if I look around, I feel like a lot of time lately, people are spending a lot more time in some specific areas, like if entertainment is an area, or like current events or whatever. If you're talking about certain areas and you're kind of breaking them down into like what were you doing with your time during this week, a lot of people are probably consuming a lot of political content, and I would say I consume it mostly in the form of conversations with people that I don't ever mean for them to be about political things, but it always comes up. So I just, sometimes I'm like, if I'm going to be social, I have to talk about it. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to talk to anybody, because that's all that people really want to talk about. But yeah, people don't always want to talk about it. But people do always want to talk about it. But and I don't think I'm better than anybody. That's not even the case. I just think it's stressing me out, and I'm trying to do what I need to do for myself to not be overwhelmed and irritated with everybody. I feel like if I don't know what people believe or think, and I don't dive into the weeds and go down their rabbit holes, especially their hateful rabbit holes, if I'm not like entertaining that, then maybe it'll make my relationships with people stay good. Maybe, I don't know. It's easy to talk to like-minded people. That's not hard. It's not as hard. But there's so many nuanced things these days that it's like, even when you kind of understand somebody, every so often it's like, you don't really fully understand that part of each other. And yeah, guys, some nights are just busy. The sirens are busy out some nights, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, it's getting pretty wild. It's getting pretty wild and crazy. I don't really know what specifically to do about it. I'm still trying to figure that out. Because I don't think I can tolerate having political discussions, if that's what you even want to call it. Because I don't think they're political discussions. That's not really what they are. I feel like at one point in our time in history, people were having political discussions. I feel like the discussions that are coming up now are people voicing their opinions about their beliefs. But we were also taught that that's not necessarily the best way to converse. Like, it's I don't know where it originated, but it's definitely a part of Western and American culture to not discuss religion and politics, finances, things like that. You don't talk about that kind of stuff unless you really kind of know somebody enough to be able to talk about it. You don't talk about it at job interviews when you first meet somebody. You don't talk about it, just everywhere. Like at the dinner table, when you're out with friends, when you're out having drinks, when you're at work. Like, you don't just talk about those kind of things everywhere. Like, first of all, you don't know who's overhearing you. That's why I kind of told that story about someone trying to maybe tell a joke about African people. You don't know who's going to overhear you. It's one thing when you're amongst your own having these conversations, but I don't know why it is that people are all of a sudden so hateful with it. Like, it's really something I know I keep recording about this, but it's because it doesn't make sense to me. For me, I've known a lot of the same people for ages. Some of the people I've known, I think the people I've met, the newest people I've met have been since like 2020. Those are probably some of the newer people I've met. 2020 and maybe some people I met in 2024. But 2020 I would say was probably like the newest batch, because that's when I had a job where I was meeting a lot of new people. That's like, I'm talking about people that I still talk to, that I hang out with. 2020 was probably the last time I met a batch of people that I would call like new friends. Like, I'm still meeting new people, but new friends. But I'm just constantly surprised. Like, I've learned that I have plenty of friends that hate gay people. I have our family members. I know plenty of people now who hate gay people, who hate trans people, who hate black people, who hate Latinos, who hate any immigrants, basically, who hate, in particular, like, undocumented people. I know people who hate, like, I think that would be the majority. Maybe some people who kind of now hate a couple religious leaders. People who hate their fiancés or spouses. You know, people hating like immediate family members. And I constantly find myself having to just ask myself, is the way I'm thinking a loving way to think about this specific person, maybe based on the comment that they made or some ideas that they shared about their opinions? Is what I said to them, maybe in conversation, is that loving? Was that loving, either the conversations I tried to start or the responses I gave? And how's their attitude toward me? Were they being loving? And I don't know what percentage it's been, but I can count multiple times when I was either mostly experiencing people saying things toward me that were definitely hateful things, but for some reason they did not notice that what they were saying was hateful. You know? Like, I've had people who are, that I would consider friends of mine, say a lot of racist things against black people to me. They've said it to me. Don't you think black people this, and that? Don't you think black people should this or that or whatever? Or what do you think about this, insert leader's name here, like this person, just because they're black or like, I'm just like, whoa, do you like hear what you're saying? Like, I'm black and they're telling me this to my face? And what, I'm supposed to like pick up the phone and call you back later on and we're gonna make plans and hang out? I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I don't even know what to do with it sometimes. What do you do with it? I don't know how many people I'm online. I do a lot of online chatting lately. There's a lot of hatred against trans people, and I'm in a lot of LGBT spaces, and I hear a lot of people jumping into those groups with a lot of hatred towards gays, towards pretty much any color and flavor of the LGBTQ plus rainbow. Just people just being hateful, religious people, devout Muslim people, devout Christian people, devout Jewish people. I've heard devout Christian people being anti-Semitic openly. I've heard, it's just sad. It's just sad, I've heard a lot of racism, sexism, homophobia. Those are the major ones. And then there's the men that hate the women and the women that hate the men. I heard this lady outside the library. I was eating lunch before I went in because I'd just gotten done working out, and I was like, okay, I brought my lunch with me, some chicken sandwiches. I'm eating in the car right outside the building, and I can tell this lady's like on her phone, outraged. She's not in front of the door, but where I parked was like the third face of the building from where the door is. So it's like you would have had to go around one corner and then around another corner to get to the actual door. So she was nowhere near earshot of the door or anything, but because I parked on that side, which is fair, people can be on their phones screaming. You're basically in the parking lot. So I'm eating. It probably takes me like 30 minutes, and she's just yelling, and I couldn't hear what she was saying too much, but I opened my door like a little bit because it's getting hot. It's like 70 something, mid 70s in LA right now, so sitting in your car in the sun is not pleasant. This was probably around 1:30 p.m., so it wasn't like early, and I'm there. One second. So I'm there, and she's talking on the phone, and I hear her say, Like, well, if you were any kind of a man, like da 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 da, like, I don't know exactly what she said, but that was the only part I heard. But the whole time before that, she had been mad and not talking calmly, and I would say she was yelling. But like if I was talking on the phone to someone who was talking the way she was talking, I would have described it as a yelling. But she wasn't like yelling loud enough that I could like hear what she said, but she was like angrily talking on the phone for a while, for probably almost 30 minutes. She's out there arguing on the phone with somebody, and it's obvious that she's talking to some guy that she thinks isn't enough of a man for whatever reason. I don't even know what the story is behind it. Maybe he did something wrong, maybe he didn't, but I'm just like, you know, I witness a lot of people arguing. Somebody picked up their phone in the library and was talking on their phone, either about someone who got arrested or someone who did something that sounded like they could have gotten arrested. And someone else was calling this person about this, and the person in the library was like filling them in. Mind you, this isn't, the type of neighborhood where you would assume that like, people are witnessing and having all these kind of experiences with all their amount of frustration. Maybe it's because of the end of the month. I've seen so many cop cars around, but there's definitely been a whole lot more than usual, and there's usually already a lot around here. And like you hear, the sirens, I mean, that's nothing that I can really predict, but it's definitely gotten worse over the years. A large percentage of the time when I'm on the phone or when I'm recording, sirens go by. And I almost never notice them unless I'm like, well, I notice them, but sometimes I don't. I'm pretty sure I don't always notice them, but definitely when I'm on the phone or recording, I notice them. And, those two that I heard so far while I've been talking with you guys on here, I heard two more earlier in the day when I had an appointment on the phone. I heard sirens then too. So, there's definitely a lot of sirens. Definitely a lot of people witnessing negative experiences with other people. There's a lot of hatred going around. There's a lot of people who are openly practicing hatred. And I just want to tell everyone, if you think that you're not hateful and you think that you don't practice hatred, try and make sure that you're not practicing hatred. That's the only thing I really want to say. Don't let the internet and the politics and the news and the politicians and all these sly people and the algorithms and all this other kind of stuff, AI, don't let it fool you into thinking that, just because you have an opinion, that it's a wholesome one, or just because you have an opinion that it's not hateful. I mean, I feel like people are getting it twisted. Like they're openly practicing hatred. I have firsthand and secondhand witnessed people practicing hatred against me, against other people. I'm hearing all about it just from being out and about. I'm just hearing all about it. I'm hearing about in interviews how certain people that I'm interviewing with hate certain people. And I'm like, wow. Like, I don't think I've ever really met someone that on the first time I met them, they're telling me about multiple people that they hate, And, people who seem nice, there's a lot of people online who seem like they're nice, they want to talk, but then all of a sudden they start getting prejudice against something, you know. I mean, I'm not saying everyone, who doesn't believe in it has to be out marching for the rights of different communities of people. Um, I'm not saying that that's what people need to be doing, but I would say, if you have a negative, hateful opinion, maybe don't share it. Don't share it with your loved ones. Don't share your racist ideas with your friends. you know, like it's maybe not the best idea to share that with everybody. Like, I know everybody wants to share it with everyone because everybody's sharing it, but it's not okay. I don't think it's okay that just because a belief is drenched in policy that you're no longer hateful because there's a policy now, or there's a policy in the works. you know just make sure you are paying attention, because it's happening so quick that people are just being hateful. They're being very hateful, and they don't even notice it. They do not notice it. People can say, I love you and I hate you, all in the same sentence. People online talking about, oh, I hate anybody who voted this way. People on dating apps, like, if you voted for this or that person, just swipe left. Like, they don't even, that's the first sentence. They don't even want to tell you what their name is before they want to tell you which way to swipe if you voted a way that they don't like. It's like, people don't want any part of it, But if you were raised, to believe in love and peacefulness and community, you gotta kind of realize what's going on. Dare I call it brainwashing? I mean, I feel like I'm seeing it right in front of my face. Like, be careful, don't get brainwashed. I feel like most people are getting brainwashed. If you're consuming mainstream media, politics, and news, you are being brainwashed, my friend. In case you didn't notice, you're brainwashed. You're being brainwashed to practice hatred. That's all I'm seeing it as. That's what it is. And even if you're on the side where you're a minority group, you're still potentially getting brainwashed to practice hatred against people who don't support those groups. What to do about it? I don't know. The only thing I've tried to do so far is to shut it out as much as I can. There are certain topics that interest me, so I kind of want to know sometimes, but I don't know. I think this is the best I can do right now, is just brainstorm and just keep away from it. Actively try not to consume anything. I'm not even going to talk about the headlines that I already know, but just because I hear people talking all the time, and because I talk to people all the time, and because I'm online a lot, and because I listen to stand-up, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, and there's no way to really escape when you're listening to podcasts. Like, somebody's gonna say something, and I have gotten into the place of, like, fast forwarding, but I still hear names of countries like Australia or whatever. Like, I hear about things going on, and I see pictures around, and there's really no way to escape it. And like I said, our living room TV defaults to CNN News. So anytime somebody hasn't been watching it for a while, or anytime the internet turns off and then turns back on again, which is multiple times a week, usually, that's what we deal with. Is the TV going back on to CNN? So it's almost always coming on multiple times a week, if not, you know. I live with people who actually actively consume that kind of stuff too. But if I get any ideas, I'll try to see if I can post about them. Like, it's been hard for me to post lately because I don't really want to post about anything because I'm like, I'm not really going out much. I'm not doing all that much. I'm not really learning all that much. I'm mostly just working on my stress levels. Like, I feel like I have to spend like multiple hours every day just trying to like de-stress, work out, do meditations, do like a lot of breath work and stuff like that. I've been spending a lot of time doing that because I'm like, everything else is just a lot to deal with lately. But yeah, like, I think for now that's mostly all of what I've got to say about it. I don't know. I don't know any more than anybody else, so I don't have all the answers. Has it been working for me? In a way, it's been working for me to kind of stay away from it all, because I'm still learning enough just by socialization, you know, that I don't feel like I have a dying desire or need to like find information. I'm mostly more so trying to find information about how to avoid it. I'm like 3 steps away from ordering a kosher phone so I can just not even have to like deal with any of it anymore. But I don't know. Like, it's definitely something to try to think about and try to problem solve before it gets worse. I don't really see the need for so much division. Everybody's listening to all these echo chambers of ideas that are just swirling around like this hatred on all angles, and people don't even see it, you know. People don't even see it. I know people don't see it because they're acting crazy and they're saying things directly to people's faces. Like, before, people would at least try to hide it, you know. And now people are like, well, I'm just gonna tell you what I think. I don't care, like, if I know where you're from or your family's from or whatever. I'm just gonna tell you my opinions. And if we have to part ways because of it, you know, people are just willing to like give up relationships, you know, or start conflict. You know, if you're gonna just give up on a relationship, just give up on it. You know, there's no reason to really start a fight about it first, you know. But I am finding myself definitely wanting to distance myself when I hear certain people saying certain stuff, and I'm just like, oh, they're taking it too far again, and I kind of just back off for a while. I'm like, you know, I don't know if I can really talk to them. But I keep circling back. But I feel it's almost like, you know, I told myself last year, when I kind of back off from people enough times, I'm like, there's a reason why I'm doing that, because they're not good to be around. So I need to just let them go sometimes. And with this type of stuff, it's been hard to do because I'm like, that would be probably almost everybody I know at one point in time. So I'm like, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work for me to just keep cutting ties with people. But I don't know. Have I cut ties with people? I've considered it. There've been some people online that are like online only, but not anybody I specifically know because of this kind of stuff. Not anybody that I specifically know yet. There are people who are maybe on the list. They're on the watch list. They're on my watch list. That I'm like, if they pop off one more time, then I'm just gonna say that they've shown their true colors. But I mean, I don't even know, man. Another thing that confuses me though is if people are prejudiced and they're saying certain things towards myself or either other people that fit a certain group that they're prejudiced toward, and then they just want to actively like tell you about their prejudiced beliefs, but then they still want to interact and hang out and stuff. To me, that's like a weird thing. It's like, do they not see it? Like, if I'm over here, like, recording on a gay podcast, and people are like, but I hate gay people, and it's like, well, I don't know what you want me to do with that. Like, I can't help you. Like, you need to figure that out on your own. Like, they still want to come around and hang out and, like, make plans and stuff. And I'm like, but I thought you hated. I thought you were hateful. Like, that's not a good way to hate, is to start making plans. So I kind of, there's something in me that's kind of like, you know, sometimes the actions do speak louder than words. A lot of people are talking a lot of crap lately. They're heated, they're passionate. I don't think some people even believe half the stuff that they're saying. They're just angry, and that's, you know, emotions and politics and religious beliefs and all that kind of stuff. Like, when you get emotional about it, you can really get connected to an idea and really lose yourself in it and not really think straight. I think it does something to your mind. It's not quite a drug, but there's something that I think flips a switch when you get to this level of heatedness and anger when you're passionately talking about one of your hot topic opinions, where it's pretty hard to see the other person, not see their point of view or see their beliefs, but just see them as a human being. Like, in those kind of arguments, I've definitely noticed, like, people's minds kind of shift into this trance-like state, if that's what you want to call it. I don't know any better way to describe it, but it's almost like when you're drunk, or when you're like in the zone playing video games, or when you've got like a runner's high, or when you're just fully focused on something. It's a state of mindfulness, I guess, but it's like negative, and you kind of get in it because you're heated, and your mind goes, I think it's a DBT thing, like I think they talk about it, like that emotion mind, you know. You just kind of get really heated and caught up in the anger of it all, and anything can come out of somebody's mouth at that point. And then they may dive deeper into it and double down, and now this is like a belief that they have, because they're thinking of it with so much anger behind it. You know, there's something that kind of anger, I think, does do to the mind when it comes to like thinking about, you know, like heated topics. I only wanted this to be an hour. It's a little over an hour now, but I don't know. Try not to become hateful. If you're listening to anything that I'm recording, you know, I'm hoping that people who listen on these things, you know, at the very least, try to recognize when you're being hateful and when you're not. Maybe don't even try not to do it. Just try to notice it. Then make the decision if you want to, like, keep talking or keep acting or keep typing or whatever you're doing. You know, yeah, people are pretty hateful out there. You don't have to be one of them. But maybe I'll have some more theories around it once I listen to this whole internet Asifa thing. It's probably gonna take me forever, but I'm gonna try it during this weekend. Alright, that's it for now. Thanks for listening.